Shabbat Shalom and welcome to this week's 3-2-1. It's 3 comments on the Parsha in 2 minutes with 1 insight. Except this week I'm going to not talk about the Parsha because it talks about leprosy and skin disease and it's gross and I don't want to. And besides that, I don't know if you heard, but Passover is coming. So I realize there is a question that I get in 1,000 different versions all of the time. Sometimes it is anxiety driven. Is my Seder good enough? Sometimes it is success driven. What does a successful Seder look like? Sometimes it is envy driven. How come my Seders don't go until 2 a.m? I want them to. They're wonderful. And sometimes it's food driven. How do I time exactly right so the chicken isn't dried out and Uncle Larry doesn't complain? All of them are around one essential question that I want to ask you, which is, what does a Seder we can feel proud of look like? And I'm going to name 3 different ideas that come out of the Seder and try and pull them together to give you one thing to hold on to. The first is the Manish Tana. Manish Tana, which we love those kids singing, is actually a core principle of the Seder. In fact, it says that should you be by yourself, you should ask the questions to yourself. The rabbis teach that it's our job to set up the Seder. In fact, one of the primary purposes is to convince children to ask questions. It is mind-bogglingly brilliant. First of all, educationally, it is so far ahead of the game, it's ridiculous. But even more than that, to have a religion whose job it is to tell us the nature of all of existence, say that at our core ritual, we ask lots and lots of questions. That is amazing. So principle 1, ask questions. Principle 2, it says that we should get candied nuts for kids. Now, our kids are going to probably need more than candied nuts in this day and age. We've spoiled them quite rotten for a number of generations. But the overall principle, we take a very adult thing. The Seder is long, it is complicated, it deals with very intense themes and difficult, intellectual machinations, but it says we need to entice the children to be present. That means that the Seder at its core is the embodiment of Ledor Vador, generation to generation. It's not enough for you to have a good experience. The question is, who else is being drawn in? Who else is becoming part of this story? Which leads to number 3. In one of my favorite rabbinic moments, there is a question about you have to finish the Seder before you go to sleep. So the question is, what happens if everyone at the table falls asleep? Can you go back and finish, or are you done and you have to just cut it off where it is? And then the rabbis say, well, it's important to note that there's sleeping and then there's sleeping. And they invent an entire Hebrew word, which basically means to nod off. It's the equivalent of I'm just resting my eyes. I love this because here the rabbis are planning out the Seder that tells the most dramatic, intense story of all of human history. A story that lends itself to movies, books, stories, again, retold in a million different ways. It is eternally compelling. And the rabbis are like, what if everyone falls asleep? And there's a few features of that. First of all, after the 4th cup of wine, it's always a possibility. But even more than that, there is an understanding that the Seder is not just for the scholars in the Beit Midrash, but for the regular person who, no matter how exciting you make it, has trouble paying attention. It might fall asleep. It could happen. So here are 3 things. We've got the questions, we've got the who else do we include, and we've got the fact that the regular person is present at our Seder, not just the scholars, the leaders, the most engaged people. And there you have your recipe for success, for a Seder, the Seder you can feel proud of. Did your Seder inspire a little bit of questioning, a little bit of back and forth conversation? Did your Seder involve bringing in someone else, either virtually, either through conversation, either through having them at your table, or being the someone else at someone else's table? And finally, did your Seder appeal not just to those who are the most passionate Jews, but was there something that held the interest for a minute of those who are the people likely to fall asleep? As we judge all the rest of the things, as we get nervous about the food coming out at the right time and, so-and-so can't talk to so-and-so and someone can't sit next to so-and-so, take a deep breath and return to this overall concept. Was the Seder an experience that people can hold on to? Shabbat Shalom and Chag Sameach.